Very good. Greg.
Hey, how you doing, Joe?
Good to see you.
Good to see you, man.
I appreciate your setting aside the time to
Okay,
meet with me
okay.
today. What I really wanted to do today, Greg, we had talked a bit over our conversation on the phone prior to meeting here about some of your objectives
Sure.
within your organization, sort of where you've been, where you're looking to go,
Right.
as well as some conversation regarding your current network, whatnot. So in our time together,
Right.
I want to just review what we talked about,
Okay.
talk about your objectives, talk about where Spectrum business is well suited to fulfill those business initiatives that we talked about. Does that sound like a good use of our time?
That sounds good.
Fantastic.
Okay.
So when we got together, or when we spoke last time, you had mentioned that your company's been in a great growth mode.
That's correct, right.
You're looking to bring on more sales personnel, whatnot, acquire more market share, so forth. One of the things I hear a lot from other decision makers, other executives like yourself, with respect to their network, their telecom, their voice services, their internet, wide area network, is how oftentimes the network itself can be a limiter to the growth of the organization. They may have fantastic ideas and thoughts about what they want to do with certain applications that'll benefit their company and their growth, but if the network isn't suited to handle that, well, that sort of puts a stranglehold on it.
Sure.
Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, so I'm just going to throw that
That's
up
fine,
here.
that's fine, no problem. I'll sit here, see what you got going. So now, what are we doing right here? I mean, what exactly are we doing here?
We're going to talk about, like I mentioned, your, bear with me one moment.
Okay.
We're going to talk about, your growth initiatives and where Charter's going to fit
That's fine.
where you're at right now. So, you had mentioned, again, that currently speaking, you've had a fantastic past, few years here. And you're looking to take some of that money forward back into the organization and grow further. So, in terms of your objectives, number one is to continue on that growth trend.
Right.
Correct? Okay. You had also mentioned that with respect to your current network, Windstream, you have some T1s with Windstream.
That's correct.
Whatnot, that you've had some issues regarding outages.
That's correct.
Would be fair to say a little bit of runaround with support.
Oh, yeah.
As you had mentioned.
Yeah, we've got some problems with some outages and stuff, so we've got to get that correct.
Okay, fair enough.
A little more reliable.
So reliability would be the second objective
right.
here. You would also mention that you were looking to make a big move from an IT standpoint with your servers to cloud services.
That's correct.
As well as hosted voice.
Right.
So all of that had to do with not only more reliability from the standpoint of disaster recovery, but moving from a CapEx spending model to an OpEx model, which was really reducing your infrastructure costs.
Sure.
So as I look at this, then I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Growth is objective one, objective two is reliability, objective three is reduction in infrastructure costs.
That's correct.
Okay, I'm going to note those up here, Craig.
Okay.
Oops. Growth. Okay, very good. So really speaking generically about telecom network services and so forth, there's really a number of ways in which there's a burden placed upon the network. So if we look at the network from a standpoint of demands placed upon it, okay, you certainly have first the company itself. I mean, you're just standard, the applications you run through, your servers, whatnot, all of that is placing a pull on the bandwidth you have available. Agreed?
That's correct.
Okay. So we'll put company there. Secondly, all your employees. You had mentioned you're like everyone else I'm talking to these days. Every employee's coming in with their own handheld devices. You got it. They're pulling on through the Wi-Fi. They're they're on break. They're doing streaming video, whatever they're doing. It is a large drain on the network, agree?
Right, I agree.
Okay, so that would be number 2. And lastly, your customers. You have online ordering services and whatnot, so they too are also pulling on the current network.
That's
agree?
right.
Okay. I'll just put a $sign for the customer. So all of these factors are pulling on your current network. Let's pretend that's like a pipe to the outer world, the cloud, if you will. Okay. So you mentioned you currently have Windstream, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Windstream, and if I'm not mistaken, you have a 3x T1 integrated solution, so your voice and internet coming across 4.5 meg, is that?
Yeah, I would think okay. About 4.5.
So we'll put 4.5 megabit. Here's the issue again, back to your objectives.
Right.
You're looking to grow. You're looking to move to the cloud and looking at hosted voice scenarios, all of which are gonna even create a larger demand on the network.
Okay.
What folks see that are making that move, and there's been some studies on this, believe it or not, the standard year-over-year growth of IT or need for bandwidth within companies based upon IT really is over 30% year-over-year.
Okay.
So what can happen if we don't address the network? There's a wall of sorts that's put up. You cannot really fulfill your initiatives without a network that can handle the initiatives. I guess sort of a circular statement, but that's the case here. So would you agree that this looks like something of an issue as it stands?
Well, yeah, certainly looks like an issue, so that's why we're here, so see if we can kind of get a resolution to it, so.
Yeah, let's look, I wanna be very specific on the current state of affairs here, just to make sure that what we're gonna end up proposing is gonna be, excuse me, correct. So first off, we talked about 4.5 meg cloud services, hosted voice with all that pulling out. That's not gonna be adequate. So would you say it's safe to say that your bandwidth is constrained? You have a bandwidth constraint?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Number 2 was the reliability issue. You had mentioned a few handful of outages in the last year and a half. Let me ask this while we're on the topic in terms of Windstream's ability to rectify those situations, mean time to recovery. How was the experience?
Well, you know, we've been with them for a while. You know, the experience, I guess, based on the amount of outages that we've had. Of course, I think the bandwidth is the issue for us. So, you know, they rectify it. You know, certainly I get somebody out there to get it taken care of. What do you guys do here, Spectrum? I mean, what's different?
I'm going to talk about that. It's a good question. Let's double back on it. I'm going to talk about support. Specific to their support, how are they handling it right now? You have an 800 number?
Yeah, we have an 800 number.
You have an online portal? Standard for most carriers, okay. So when you call into that support line, what happens?
Well, usually what happens, we call and, you know, we kind of let them know what's going on. They kind of, you know, send us over to someone else. You know, and so, you know, it's kind of like with most places now. So, you know, they kind of move you over to somebody else, and they kind of talk to you about, kind of walk you through what's going on. You know, of course, unfortunately, we're not trained, you know, for the technical side of stuff. And so,
I hear you.
So we really just try to give it to our IT guy. He kind of handles it from there.
Gotcha. What's going to be different about Spectrum? I want to touch on it quick when we get back. Our NOC is onshore as opposed to most telcos, which are offshore. Number 2, and this is critical, the folks that handle support out of the NOC are certified engineers, Cisco certified. So they can work a ticket immediately, which is unlike the Windstream scenario. In any case, current state, reliability is an issue. The last would be, again, looking at the growth again and the current state of bandwidth, scalability is an issue, yes?
Yes.
I mean, you're aware the furthest you can take a T1 solution is up to 10.5 meg. Okay? You're gonna find in a moment here, as I talk about Spectrum, that we're gonna open up a new world in terms of what you can really do in terms of growth. So Scalability question mark. Okay. Very good. So the real question is, why now? I mean, we talked about a few things a week ago, in terms of the process of moving forward. You're coming to end of term on contract here, yeah? In the next few months?
Yeah, next few months we're
Okay.
gonna be out of that contract, and we're kind of looking at our options at this point.
Okay, so what is the real driving force to make a change here?
Well, of course, the main thing is making sure that we have enough bandwidth,
Okay.
and because of the growth that we're
Okay.
our growth is for what we're trying to look at today. We're trying to really put us in a position to win, and so
Okay.
financially we've got to try to drive some more revenue in here.
Gotcha. So safe to say, if you don't do anything,
Right.
growth's not gonna grow.
That's absolutely right.
Okay. Growth. I'll just put a line through that. Okay, and what else? Okay, the growth.
Well, of course, through the growth, we've got to have certainly the right kind of service, because we can't afford to go down,
Okay.
And so at the end of the day, when you look at it, we can grow all with whoever company we decide to go with, we can grow as much as we can, but at the end of the day, we can't afford to be out.
Okay.
That's the key for us. So.
Well, certainly with everything being in the cloud, I mean,
That's
if your
right.
internet's down, you're dead in the water,
That's
so.
right, you got it.
Okay. So we're back to reliability again over
Right.
here. Okay, fair enough. Good question mark there. Very good. So let's move out of the Windstream
Okay,
world.
okay.
Are you comfortable where we are before I move on?
I think.
Is this an accurate representation
so,
of where
yeah.
your current concerns
Yeah, I
on
think
your
so.
current objectives, all
Yeah.
that? Fair enough. I'm gonna talk a little bit about, Spectrum
Okay.
and some of
Now,
the.
why Spectrum? I mean, what's it used to be called Charter. What?
It's a rebranding. You've seen
Okay.
this with other organizations,
Right.
Comcast, most notably with the Xfinity move.
Right. Okay.
We feel that, from an awareness standpoint, it's gonna really position our organization well in terms of,
Okay.
fiber services.
Okay. Does anything change as far as the service itself, or?
No, the service, the network itself
Okay.
is the same, world-class
Okay.
fiber network, redundant at the core, all these good things, which will speak to the reliability issue.
Okay.
So no, not on that. And internally, organizationally, it's a benefit actually to the fiber customers, potential fiber customers. And that from an executive standpoint, there's more focus placed upon
Okay.
fiber. So that's all good news for Spectrum fiber customers. It's a great product, great support as it was. It's getting better.
Sure.
It's all good. It's all good. So with respect to Spectrum and just some key differentiators, first off, with Spectrum, and we're gonna talk to the scalability issue here. And we like to use the number 1, and you'll see why as this flows. We provide services that are good to 1 gig. Okay, so we talked, and we'll look at 10 meg to maybe 20, maybe 50 meg is what we talked about before, and we'll come back
Sure.
on a review of all that. But when we install fiber services at Spectrum, we're providing a full gig of throughput. There isn't any need in the future, if you wanted to go to 100 meg or 500 meg or beyond, to look at any equipment changes or anything of that sort, no reinstalls. So really, the future's wide open,
Right, okay.
if you will. You can go from 10 meg all the way to a gig with a phone call. It's a few days versus
Right.
the initial 90-day
Right.
install interval on fiber coming in, so 1 gig. Number 2 would be, you have 1 number
Okay.
to call for anything, so that number would put you directly to our support. Remember, onshore, our network operations centers up in Kentucky, and again, manned by Cisco certified engineers. So whoever would call if there were a case of latency, packet loss, these kind of things, or God forbid an outage, call that number, give the circuit ID, they can immediately look into the circuit all the way through to the Cisco gear that we're terminating on in your suite and work the problem from there. So what you would find is, if there were a support issue versus telcos, I'm not gonna pick on Windstream, just the general telco world, AT&T, Windstream, whatnot, is the mean time to recovery is gonna be tremendously faster
Okay.
through the Spectrum support mechanism, okay?
But we still have to go through 800 number, is that correct?
You can go through 800 number, yeah, same thing there, So 1 gig one number, and I'm gonna talk about reliability here. Again, and that was a big sticking point to you. One network.
Okay. What do you mean one network?
Very good. The Spectrum network is 100% owned and operated, maintained by Spectrum. Okay. Unlike Windstream, with your current Windstream solution here in Atlanta,
right,
the local exchange carrier is AT&T. Okay. So Windstream utilizes from your office here to their nearest point of presence,
right,
an AT&T connection, and at that point, it's handed off to Windstream's core network. Okay. So it's an extra point of failure, right?
Right, right.
It's also potential finger pointing,
right, from
a service, a support standpoint. So if there is an issue, I don't know, maybe you've had this experience where you called into Windstream, they're like, oh, we gotta get in touch with AT&T, I think it's them. Mm-hmm. Yes?
Right. Yeah, we've heard that. Yeah.
That can't happen with Spectrum. We're 100% Spectrum fiber from your suite all the way through to the cloud. So it's all on us, okay, which is a good thing for you.
Right.
There is nowhere else to look except for Spectrum. That tied into the single number to call to engineering at the NOC. It's fantastic. So there's a big value here. What you're gonna see overall on the reliability front, we sort of covered that, but then with the scalability, the Spectrum solution encompasses all of your demands in a more reliable fashion. So if we began at 20 meg through a gig, you're gonna be clean flowing out into the cloud to your server world, to your hosted voice, and to your customers. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Makes sense. Fantastic. So, do you have any questions, concerns about anything?
No, I don't have any questions right now. I mean, at this point, we're I guess at some point we'll need to bring our IT guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll take a look at.
Okay. So why don't we look at next steps?
Okay.
From this point. Okay. I'll put them over here. Okay, you mentioned we got to bring in your IT.
Right, yeah, got to bring the IT guy. And then I want to find out, I guess, from time of contract signed, you guys have a contract, is that correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. So from time of contract signed, how long does it usually take? I'm looking at my Windstream contract,
yeah,
when that contract ends. So how long is that going to be?
Okay, I'm going to put that down at the bottom.
Okay.
And I'm going to put it under review.
Okay.
We'll touch on that. Just so you know, we'll conduct a site survey. I'm going to order one.
Sure. Okay. Okay.
When we're done here, that's going to give me information.
Okay.
Specific to that point, sure, actually, and some other information. But typically, you'd expect around 90 days plus or minus. Okay. I've seen them as short as 60. I've seen them as long as 120. Right. I will have information relevant and specific to your situation, sure, okay, at that point. So let's say review, not only with respect to that, but reviewing if there's been any changes regarding any of the initiatives we talked about, any of your current needs, whatnot. Right. And we can tweak things as we go. Right. So the first step with your IT personnel would be really a discovery, sure, if you will. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Okay. And if they have any questions, they can certainly, ask me. So it's really discovery two ways here. Right, right. You're discovering about Spectrum a bit more. We're discovering more about you. Right. Okay. Number two would be recommendations. Okay. And I'm just going to put our REC. We'll get all of that information. We'll have the information from the site survey. I will come back with recommendations, probably ranging from 10 to 50 meg, okay, internet to handle all of the traffic out. We're not going to have to talk about voice services because your hosted solution is going to take care of that. So it's really just IP, okay, to run all of that and then review it. So barring any of that, do you have any other questions? Do you feel comfortable with the process?
Yeah, I feel comfortable. Just would like for you to probably shoot me an email.
Will do.
Over this stuff, kind of, okay, like I said, I got to get with the IT guy, so we need to kind of bounce some stuff for him.
Yeah, I'm going to snap a picture of this. Okay, okay. Why don't we set up a time? Is it okay if we met next week, same day, same time? Okay. And we'll have your team out. I'll bring, I'm going to also bring Kevin York. He's our sales engineer, okay, to this area. Okay. So he'll be there to ask any technical questions that are beyond me. Sure, okay. Your IT guy, you'll love him. Right, those guys can live in their own world. Right. We can live in ours. So. Right. Okay, fair enough. Well, I appreciate your time.
Joe, thanks so much.
Appreciate you guys.
Okay.